Hey everyone, Michael here. So I've been getting a lot of requests and questions and views and hits on my Social Security, income, and disability videos and the housing part of it. And so I thought I would just go ahead and do a follow-up video since I think I first released that video back in 2013. I'm not sure. But anyways, I get a lot of questions about, what was my process, what did I have to do, and, how long did it take you and everything else. So I originally applied for SSI SSD back in 2010, and I didn't get it established until February of 2012. And, so I know for some people it's going to be longer, some people it's going to be shorter. It really just depends on the departments that you happen to be working with and just how quickly you get the ball rolling. For me, when I first started, I didn't know anything about doing this, and I didn't get any help from family members or anything else. It was actually the DSHS office, and here in the state of Washington, our DSHS office, which is the Department of State Health Services, it's where you go to sign up for food stamps and state medical and just a bunch of different other services. So basically they're the county building. Each state has it set up as a different set of acronyms or whatever else, but for the most part it's your welfare office, for lack of better terminology or whatever else. It's the county building that you go and apply for help at. I went through them, and their worker used to just put this random generic blank statement on the forms, and what she originally put on there was that I was disabled due to my diabetes. Well, that wasn't the case of what I was actually going in for. And so, during the couple of years that I had to wait for everything to get processed, I was going through tons of medical treatment, and I had to go see psychiatrists and therapists and all this other stuff, and I actually saw 4 sets of people. I saw 2 public, 2 private, and one of the private people actually was a Social Security psychiatrist, doctor type person that actually filled out the forms and pushed it along. And so during that time period, I was going through all kinds of medical testing. I was going through all sorts of psychiatric testing. And I was actually granted the ruling that I got, which was in my favor, that I was going to be put on it due to my mental health. And even though I have things pretty well together for the most part, I do suffer from bipolar and depression and male irritable syndrome and a few other things that have big fancy words that just basically means that I don't play well with others, apparently. I don't know. But each person will go through something different, but for me personally, since everyone keeps asking me pretty much the same questions, and I don't mean that sarcastically or sounding like I'm upset about it. That was the whole point of me starting my video blog, was to try to do a Q&A session with people the best that I can. And so, in my experience though, it was a long drawn out process and procedure that really didn't need to take as long as it did. And finally, when I actually got a court date where I had to go and be seen in front of a judge, the judge he said he read 18 pages of my 5,000 page case file that came across his desk, and at first when I heard him say 5,000 pages, I was just like, what the hell? What did they write about me? But that's a whole different story and a whole nother video. So basically, he said just by reading the first 18 pages of this 5,000 page document that he could see that I was in compliance with all the medical professionals and that I actually did need the help that I was applying for, and so that's why he granted it to me. And apparently, according to my lawyer, she said that she's been working with him for over 20 years and she's never seen him grant somebody that quickly. But going back to the process of it, I didn't know what I was doing. All I know is that the program that I was on here in the state of Washington was called GAX, which was General Assistance Unemployable. And it was a really amazing program back in the day. And they don't have it anymore, but basically what they did was they gave you like $300 in food stamps and $300 in cash. And if you remember from some of my previous videos, I was talking about how I was behind on rent and I was really worried about having to try to find a place to live and so on and so forth. Well, what ended up happening was my landlord carried me for almost a year with me only paying him $250 out of the $650 that my rent is now at. And so over the last couple of years, I'd say maybe a year and a half, 2 years, I've actually caught my rent almost completely up, and I think I'm less than $400 behind now. And so after this February, I should have my rent completely caught up and be out of the red, at least in that sense. So going back to the whole procedure part of it, I went to DSHS, which is the county welfare office, and the lady just kept putting the same thing on the form. I cannot work due to my diabetes, and then she would send it in. And I kept telling her, stop doing that, you know, put more effort into it. And she said, what we're basically looking for is for them to reject you 3 times before you can go to a lawyer. I said, but you are making it sound like, oh, I have diabetes and that's it. You know, that's the whole reason that I want this disability or whatever. I said, being diabetic most times is not disabling. It can lead up to disabling, but, you know, I said, okay, fine, whatever. So she sent that form in 3 times. On the third time, when we got the rejection letter, then they put me in contact with a lawyer who specialized in getting Social Security claims paid out. And that lawyer actually took a hell of a lot longer than what other lawyers can. I mean, it could have been pushed along so much faster. But anyways, during this time period, I had to sign over all these affidavits allowing the lawyer to sequester information from my previous hospitalization and from all my doctors and from the psychiatric wards and everything else. And once that was all set up, I got called in, had to go do a meet and greet with my lawyer, and she kind of like ran over the basics of what was going to go on, what to expect, and what not to expect. And, you know, she was very upfront and forward in saying that, you know, the judge may or may not rule in my favor. It just really depends on the person or on that judge. So, my number one thing that I could suggest to anyone is when you do go get yourself a Social Security lawyer, is make sure that Your lawyer does not charge you unless you win, because if you are in a low income situation already and your lawyer is charging you $5,000 or $6,000 and you don't win, how are you going to come up with that $5,000 or $6,000? It's not exactly like you're going to be able to take a lawyer to court and win. So that's my number one suggestion to you, is make sure that your lawyer will not charge you anything if you don't win, and if they do charge you, make sure that it's an obtainable amount based on the income that you have available to you. Also, make sure that all of your fees are paid for out of your disbursement should you win. Now, this is something that I didn't realize was being done, because at the time, like I said, I went there and I filled out all the paperwork by myself. I don't have a brain for paperwork, and at the time I was really just stressed out and nervous, and so things just were not clicking for me, and I didn't comprehend a lot of it. So what I ended up doing is I agreed to pay back the state for all the money that they had spent on me for like the GAX program or whatever. And I also had agreed to pay my lawyer's fee off the top, which that I was okay with. But she ended up charging me an additional $135 on top of the almost $10,000 that she got in payment from, her cut, not including all the money that I ended up having to pay back to the state. And so we were figuring out, based on my previous income and work status and all this other stuff, that I should have been getting almost $30,000 back in so I was really excited, and I said, even after taxes and everything that they, have to take out of it, that was still going to leave me about $25,000, which was going to really significantly improve my living situation. I was going to be able to buy a car. I was going to be able to have a little bit of a nest egg, and just a few other things. I had it split up very reasonably. Well, she took, I think it was $12,000. The state, or she paid the state back, what was it, $8,000 or $10,000, and then the rest they divided up into disbursements of 6 months. So every 6 months I would get $1,500 to $1,800. And that happened for the course of a year and a half, and then after that year and a half, whatever money was left over would come to me in a lump sum. So I was kind of screwed in that situation, because I know, had I been in the state of California, I would have received one lump sum, and I was able to divide it up and do with as I pleased. So that was kind of like a kick in the balls. But for, the most part, everything did get itself situated out, and things were a little difficult for a while, especially revolving around my housing situation. I haven't had to move, thankfully, and I'm really thankful to my landlord for carrying me as long as he did. But as it stands now, I make $741 a month, and I get $161 in food stamps. And out of that $741, that pays $650 for my house, and $72.82 for my cable and internet service, which leaves me roughly about $20 to $30 a month. and I use that $20 to $30 to buy cat food and cat litter for my two animals, and that's really it. I have like no additional money left over. Um, so my cell phone is through Straight Talk, and that is $130 every 3 months, which my mother pays for, just so that I have um, a good cell phone and access to uh, access to a phone. So then that way, if I do have a medical emergency or whatever, I can call and get that taken care of. It was actually her and my dad's idea right before my dad passed away that that's what they were going to do, and I've been thankful for it ever since. Now, there are those, you may have heard about them, they're free cell phones, are the quote-unquote Obama phone, and they're good little phones. Like, this is my Obama phone that I've had for several, well, not several, I've had it for about 3 years now. It's a very basic phone, gets 250 minutes of talk time, and they now have free unlimited text messages. So this was my phone for the longest time, but my parents wanted me to have a phone that was unlimited, and so for $130 a month $130 every 3 months, I have a good phone with unlimited talk, text, web, whatever. So I'm really thankful for that. And then my sister pays for my electricity, and so between the two, I'm able to actually kind of make things last. The biggest gripe that I have is actually the food stamp situation, because the state of Washington, as well as just in the state of Washington, they really don't take into consideration cost of living. So I live on the Olympic Peninsula, which means that everything has to be shipped up here, versus where, like, say in Seattle or whatever, it's a major metropolitan city, so there's a lot more available, so prices are a little bit cheaper. Well, up here, like, a package of chicken, like the chicken legs, it's anywhere between $10 and $15, versus, like, if you were over in Seattle, you'd be able to pick it up for $5 to $7. So that's kind of hard, learning how to, that was one of the biggest things that was hard for me, was kind of learning how to budget and be able to buy enough food to take me through the entire month. A lot of people ask me, how do I just make it through the month? And I've had to really learn how to be very frugal and kind of haggle my way through things. I am very thankful that in my community that there's 2 food banks that happen that I am able to take part in when and if I have a ride to them. But a lot of times, if I'm running out of food in the middle of the month, I'll go to the food bank and I'm able to get a few things here and there to kind of stretch until I get more money on the 9th of that following month. So that's been fairly difficult to do, and I think I've pretty much got that under control. Another thing that has come across in some of the questions that I've received via email or even on the YouTube channel here is, why don't I look into low-income housing? Well, I have looked into low-income housing, and even though it would be beneficial to me, based on my income, my rent would only be between $65 and $81 a month, which would leave me a significant portion of money left over to basically do whatever I wanted with. But the low-income housing around here, as in most areas, is kind of seedy and just not the best. You have some places that are monthly inspected, which is a huge violation of your privacy, and you constantly have to be on point with everything. And they're apartments, so you have the drama of living in apartments. You either have noisy upstairs neighbors or noisy downstairs neighbors, or just tons of noise in general. And for me, because of some of my other medical conditions, it's really hard for me to make it upstairs. So a lot of times ground level apartments aren't really available. And due to the fact that I have Social Security disability, that allows me now to be able to move into otherwise restricted areas like senior housing or places like that. And I have actually looked into some of the 55 and older complexes, and they really remind me of like retirement homes or nursing homes, where they just have that really nasty like hospital smell to it. And I don't know, I don't want to be like the youngest person in the building. And I'm not a fairly loud person. Like, I don't listen to my music blaring or anything like that, so I know I could be okay as a tenant in one of those places, but I don't know, I just really don't want to. And plus, a lot of the places around here have unnaturally long waiting lists. And one of the places that I actually did look into, they have just gone downhill over the last couple of years. And I actually had been signed up for those places, and I was going to move into them and everything else, and the landlord just passed me over for whatever reason. The landlord at the time, when I first signed up, didn't like the fact that I knew some of the people that lived there, and she actually had an issue with some of the tenants that were there that I knew, and so out of bias decision, she decided to pass me over, thinking that I was like that. And even though that's illegal to do, and here in the state of Washington, the Fair Housing Act, well, nationwide there's the Fair Housing Act or whatever else, I was still denied the place. So, I'm kind of glad in a way that I didn't get in there, just because it, like I said, it has gone downhill so much, and there's been a lot of robberies and people having things stolen from their yards and stuff like that, and so I just don't want to deal with any of that. I'm a very quiet person. I don't have drama in my life, so I'm actually kind of glad that that's done away with. So really, everyone's Social Security is going to be a little bit different than mine. Some are going to get it on their first try, some are going to get it on their 30th try. But when you go to sign up for it, the number one thing that you really got to do is just get yourself a really good lawyer, and somebody who's going to really be a pit bull for you in the courtroom and fight for you, and make sure that all of their fees are taken out of whatever money you get back, so that you don't have to pay any additional out-of-pocket costs like I did. And from there, just try to live your life the best that you can, and understand that there is this huge stigma about people who receive Social Security and disability and stuff like that. You may see a lot of retaliation or even bullying, and unfortunately that happens a lot. I've even had some of my best friends kind of take pop shots at me like, oh, well, you could work if you want to. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just faking it. Well, I must be a damn good Oscar-worthy actor to have 5,000 pages written up about me and a team of medical professionals, both health and mental health medical professionals, say that I need this. So just be aware that there is going to be a lot of prejudice put towards you, and that people are going to say a lot of mean things or what have you. If you are experiencing depression or suffering with bipolarism or anything, there's a lot of different reasons to be put on Social Security and disability. If you have those reasons, then it doesn't matter what anyone else says. Plain and simple. You gotta do you and not worry about anyone else. So just understand that, you are going to have a lot of people that just attack you and bully you and not really understand. And really, it's not their place to understand. It's between you and your medical professionals. Wrapping it up here, I have done a lot of learning in the last couple of years about myself and how to really just kind of take care of things on my own. Even though I'm 33, I just started learning how to deal with all this stuff on my own, because from, birth to 18, I was living with my parents, and from 18 to 30, I was living with my sister. So I never really had to live on my own, and never had to learn how to deal with bills and make budget plans and menus and so on and so forth. So for me, it was a really big learning experience, and I am grateful that I've been able to really kind of transition into a more adult lifestyle where I know how to take care of myself with making sure that my rent gets paid, making sure that this bill gets paid, making sure that I have enough food to get through the entire month with, and so on and so forth. So for me, it's kind of like a baby Huey type situation, but it is what it is. I've always lived with somebody, so these last 3 years have been a really big eye-opener for me as being a single person without roommates or anything that has to live on their own and make sure that everything's taken care of. So there's that. One thing else that I also have started doing, and I used to do this in the past also, but people have asked me, well, if you only get $741 a month and your rent is $650 and your internet's $72.82 and the rest of the money goes to the cats, how do you take care of things like toilet paper and dish soap, laundry soap, the essentials? Well, I shop at the Dollar Tree and the 99-cent only, 99-cent stores. I shop at them a lot. My number one place that I go to for a lot of the stuff that I get is the Dollar Tree. There's also a place called Winco Foods. I shop out there whenever I can, just because that helps stretch my food stamps. And Safeway every Friday has $5 Fridays, and so you're able to go in and get a huge 24-pack roll of toilet paper for $5. So the way that I do things for my cats is I will go buy a big 40 or 50-pound bag of cat food with whatever money I have left over, and that will typically take them through a month or two. And then so in between the months that I don't have to pay for the cat food, I'm able to take care of buying my laundry soap and the household essentials. And I get my laundry soap and stuff from the Dollar Tree, and people argue back and forth that it's good, that it's bad, that it's this, that it's that. For me and my necessities, the Dollar Tree soap works fantastically. So I'll buy like 6 bottles of laundry soap and 6 bottles of detergent or fabric softener, and that's $12 right there. And then that still leaves me money for my toilet paper and dish soap and like all my little incidentals. So that's how I survive, is by utilizing things and places that most people really kind of shy away from. And you know, it's okay if you don't shop at the Dollar Tree or at a 99-cent store, but really when you're living on a budget, you kind of have to do whatever you gotta do. And I find a lot of times that their products are just as good, if not better, than some of the store-bought name brand products. Like cookies and stuff like that, I'll buy from the Dollar Tree, so then that way I don't have to use a lot of my money at like Safeway to buy a package of cookies that I could get at the Dollar Tree for $1. And the Dollar Tree also accepts coupons now, and they accept EBT. So I mean, you could really make things stretch really well. And another thing that I have just recently started doing is buying large things of pork tenderloin in like the huge pack, and then cutting it up into individual steaks, and then wrapping those up and freezing them. And then that's taking a $17 piece of meat, and by the time I've cut it up, I'm getting like a week or 2 off of that piece of meat. So there's little tips and tricks and hints and what have you to really kind of like make things work, but for the most part, you know, that's how I survive, that's how I get along. If it wasn't for my sister paying for my lights, then I really couldn't stay where I am now. And unfortunately, the price of rent and everything else around here has gone up substantially, so I wouldn't be able to live on my own unless I was in a low-income housing, or if I went into senior housing. So I hope that really helps with some of the questions and the comments that I've received. And if not, you know, feel free to send me a reply on the video or whatever else. It's hellocupcakeitsme at gmail.com. That's the email. Or you can send your request, your Q&As here on YouTube, or you can check out the blog, which is hellocupcakeitsme.com. Find me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/hellocupcake, the letter, or the number 4, the letter U. And on Twitter, it's hellocupcake4u, the letter 4, or the number 4 and the letter U. So yeah. Oh, and you can also subscribe to all of my social media by text message by sending follow the @ Hello Cupcake for you to 40404, and whenever I update the YouTube channel or Instagram or Twitter or any of that other stuff, you automatically get notified of it. So yeah, take care, and like I said, shoot me any other questions, comments, concerns, or whatever.
When your legs don't work like they used to before, and I can't sweep you off of your feet, Will your mouth still remember the taste of my love? Will your eyes still smile from your cheeks? And darling, I will be loving you till